So I just got back from my walk, and my walks always inspire me. I get all these downloads, and today I want to share with you guys why I think walking is the perfect exercise. Now, I'm a gym girly to the end. Like, I love lifting, and I could do a whole nother video on why that's so important for me. But today I want to talk about the exercise that I know is going to stick with me for life because it is so perfect. And I'm going to give you 9 reasons why I'm addicted to it, 9 benefits, and a little bit of scientific backing for those. But the list could go on and on and on. And it's something you can start doing. Like, you could literally watch this video, cut it off, go outside right now and implement this. You don't need a gym. You don't need fancy equipment. All you need is your 2 feet and the ability to put one in front of the other. So the benefit everyone talks about, and it is valid. It is enough in and of itself to motivate me to get up and walk. But walking puts you in the fat burning zone like no other exercise. And I think that's because as humans, that's our main form of transportation. Of course, in modern times, we have so many other forms of transportation that we've invented, but nature created us to use walking as our main form of transportation. And the expectation was that we'd be doing a lot of it. So our bodies are built to use their hormones, use the energy that we put in it most efficiently when we're walking. And I used to be a runner. I used to think, the harder you run, the harder you push yourself, the more benefit there is for your body. But the truth is, walking actually puts you in the absolute best state. Running, intense workouts, things like that can put you in fight or flight mode. They can actually increase stress hormones. But walking just naturally puts your body at ease and tells it that it's safe and that it's safe to use those fat stores that it's put up for a rainy day. So the number one benefit, the one everybody's familiar with, is the fat burning. So I wear my Apple Watch whenever I walk, and my Apple Watch keeps track of my heart rate. If you want to know the formula for calculating the ideal heart rate to burn fat in your body, the formula is to take 220, subtract your age, and then multiply that number by 0.7. So for me, subtracting 43 from 220 and multiplying it by 0.7 puts me at about 124 beats per minute for optimal fat burning. And if you look at my Apple Watch, which I wear whenever I walk, you can see that my heart rate stays right in between the 120 to 124 range. And I'm walking at a leisurely pace. I'm walking so that my breathing is deep, but not intense or labored. I can have a conversation with someone just like I'm having with you right now, and I'm burning fat. Doesn't get any better than that. Like, you don't have to kill yourself to burn and use the energy on your body. The second reason I'm totally addicted to walking is the sleep benefits. Anyone who is a little older, dealing with hormonal changes, knows that sleep becomes a hot commodity as you get older. It is not a given. There's lots of insomnia you may deal with. All kinds of factors have a bigger impact on whether or not you're able to get a good night's sleep. I know my kids can fall asleep anywhere. I do not have that luxury. And so the reason why it's so beneficial to walk in order to get better sleep, and especially walk first thing in the day, is number one, if you're out there, the ideal time for me is sunrise. So I like to get out just as the sun is rising. That's the perfect time. It means I can walk year round. I live in Texas. It gets really hot here. But even in the heat of summer, if I get out right at sunrise, it can be really comfortable. But the other reason I like to do that is because I can look directly at the sun. And looking at sunlight starts your circadian clock. It sets your circadian clock. Now, on a day when I've got early meetings that start before the sun come up and I'm looking at a computer screen, taking all that light in, it totally disrupts that rhythm. But if I can get outside and send the signal to my body by looking at the sun that it's time to start generating those hormones that help move me through my day effectively, then I can sleep better later at night. So that initial sunlight in the eyes first thing in the morning starts the cortisol producing process at the right time and not at night when you're trying to go to sleep. So cortisol is a stress hormone, and we demonize it because most of us have an excess of it due to constantly being in fight or flight mode. But when we activate it at the right time, it can get all the cylinders going in your brain and allow you to focus the way you need to at the beginning of your day, and then naturally begin to shift you into the production of melatonin later on in your day so that you can rest peacefully. So no need for supplements, no need for that caffeine first thing in the morning to start generating cortisol, and no need to take melatonin supplements at night to go to sleep because your body's clock is set up the way it needs to be for the day because you went outside and you looked at the sun. really, this whole system is amazing. Our coexistence with nature and how it impacts how we experience our day. The third major benefit is the mood boost. So I think people really underestimate how powerful movement can be in helping reduce anxiety, stress, and depression. When I am consistently moving my body, when I'm taking my daily walks, I struggle much less with rumination, with that agitation, irritation that comes from the normal stressors of daily life. And the reason I think that is number one, obvious answer is exercise produces endorphins. So Legally Blonde is my absolute favorite movie, and my favorite scene in the movie is when Reese Witherspoon is talking about her criminal that she's defending for murder, and says she's an exercise person. People who exercise produce endorphins. Endorphins make people happy, and happy people just don't kill their husbands. And it's a funny line, but it's true. People who are producing happy hormones, people who are balanced, typically don't respond to stressors and different things like people who are not doing those things. So the endorphins actually are like a drug, and anyone who runs or exercises regularly can attest to this. I also think that when we deal with emotions, a lot of times they get stored in our body. So emotion is energy in motion, or it should be in motion. But when we're not moving the body, when we're staying in our heads and we're just allowing those emotions to kind of sit in our body, they take a toll. And even if we don't consciously realize they're there, they are creating kind of a weight, an energetic weight inside of us that needs to be released. And so I believe, based on my intuition and how I feel when I move, that especially walking, because it keeps us out of that fight or flight state, it's not intense, allows those emotions to move through the body effectively and kind of release themselves. And the reason I believe this is because when I'm walking, a lot of those emotions that I haven't been aware of will come to the surface. It's almost like in moving that energy through my body, I'm allowing it to come up to be processed. And by the time I finish my walk, something that seemed super heavy is all of a sudden light as a feather. Not only that, because, and this is the next benefit, because of the brain boosting effects of exercising and walking, getting that blood flow, firing on all cylinders, I normally will come up with solutions to whatever problem I'm ruminating about, whatever stressor, whatever negative emotion I'm experiencing. I'll get a download to show me what I need to do next in order to move that situation in a direction that I prefer. So the mood boosting effects are layered, and they happen on multiple levels. The other added bonus, especially for dark-skinned people, is that vitamin D. So people with my complexion typically need up to an hour in the sun before we fully absorb all the vitamin D that we need for the day, versus people with fairer skin needing only about 15 minutes in the sun, which can happen, throughout their daily activity. So a lot of dark-skinned people are severely vitamin D deficient, and vitamin D is one of the most important nutrients that we need in order to have proper bodily function, including proper immune function, but it also affects our mood. I've even read studies that say high doses of vitamin D will help reduce things like fibroids, which are pretty prevalent in women of color. And I think that's part of the reason, because we don't get enough vitamin D. So that vitamin D allows our body to function more efficiently and improves our mood in that way as well. And I will usually spend about an hour to an hour and a half outside during these walks. And it's comfortable, like I said, because I do it first thing in the morning. The fourth benefit, which I touched on, is brain flow, right? So I'm going to go into the fifth benefit as well because they're related. Insulin and cortisol are probably the two biggest hormones we need to pay attention to as we get older and as our body is less efficient at producing and using those hormones. And something that walking, all types of exercise, but especially walking does, is help reduce insulin resistance. I first discovered that I was insulin resistant when I was pregnant with my son, my second child, and I was told I was pre-diabetic. I was constantly getting blood work done. I didn't really know what it meant at the time. Like, I knew a lot of diabetics. I knew they had to take insulin. I knew it had something to do with sugar, but I didn't really understand the mechanism. But what happens is insulin helps manage glucose in the body. So glucose, most of us are on a glucose energy cycle, meaning we use glucose as our primary form of energy. And insulin helps to regulate that, to help move glucose through the proper processes to be used by the body. When we become insulin resistant, it's because we've introduced too much glucose to the body. And what happens is the glucose doesn't want to be taken up into the cells and used for energy, so it's stored as fat. And then eventually, all of that glucose in our blood starts to damage our organs and interrupt bodily functions and different systems in the body. And so, walking helps take up that glucose. One of the reasons why I love strength training and lifting heavy and making sure I have a large amount of muscle on my body is because muscle acts as a glucose sponge when we activate it. So when we, like I'm moving right now, every time I move my arm, my muscles in my arms are grabbing glucose for energy. And so when we walk, every time we take a step, the biggest muscles on our body are sucking that glucose out of the blood, which is why it's really, really a good idea within 60 to 90 minutes of a meal to take at least a 10-minute walk to use up the glucose in the blood system so that the insulin doesn't have to work as hard to process that extra glucose. It's being used by the body. My father was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes when I was in high school, I believe, and he used daily walks to live insulin-free for over 20 years before he started having any other issues with his diabetes. So that is significant. We assume that once people are diagnosed type 2 diabetic, that their only, avenue is taking insulin shots and managing it that way because we're told by the medical industry that it's not curable. And that is a misconception. We don't understand why the body is responding the way it is. But if we learn to understand what's really happening, we can use things like walking and strength training to reverse the effects of insulin resistance. So it's not this line that you cross and you can't ever cross back over. It's an accumulation of introducing too much glucose in the body because of, societal influences and addictive additives added to our food, whatever you want to call it. But it is reversible. But you have to reverse the habits. It's not reversible if you don't reverse the habit or if you don't implement things that help to manage the new way that your body is working in response to what you've put inside of it. So basically, walking acts as a glucose sponge. It sucks up all that glucose so that your body doesn't have to work so hard to get it to uptake into the cells, and it doesn't store it as fat. So this subsequently leads to a reduction in sugar cravings. Because when you're insulin resistant, even before you're full-blown diabetic, your cells are not taking in the glucose. So although you're eating sugary foods and things like that, your body is not using them for energy. It's just storing it as fat. So you still feel energy deprived. And so you just want more. But when your body is actually taking the glucose in and using it, you have less cravings for sugary foods. So I've done low carb keto several times in life. I'm starting it up again. And I notice that when I'm on keto, when I'm eating very low carb, the sensation of hunger almost completely goes away. And now I understand why. It's because my body is actually getting the signal that it's taken up and used enough sugar. And I'm reducing my insulin resistance. So sugar cravings reduced is one of the many benefits of walking. My absolute favorite benefit, and I don't know why I didn't do this one first, from walking is the creativity boost. So we talked about how walking, especially first thing in the morning, starts that clock, gets those hormones moving the way they should, gets the brain firing on all cylinders because you've got the blood flowing. And the downloads that I get when I walk are incredible. I notice, because a lot of people say that just comes from movement of the body and a boost of blood flow to the brain. But when I do exercises indoors or like in the evening, I get the endorphin boost, but I don't get the downloads. I don't get the same level of creativity. And I think that's because being outside, like in the sun isn't just a heat source. And I could do a whole nother video about that. But I think the sun actually, just like it does for plants, activates processes in the body that allow us to expand into our full selves, allow us to connect with everything that is. It's like being plugged into the source. The sun is our power source, but not just with regards to electricity and heat. So the creativity, the downloads that I get when I'm walking are absolutely incredible. I was even able to create the outline for this video and all of the talking points during the walk this morning, and then come and sit down and share this with you all. So if you are looking for creative solutions, if you're stuck in a thought process, a creative process, and you don't know what step to take next, take a walk during the day, especially first thing in the morning. And I would bet money that the answer will come to you. Answers that you didn't even know you had questions for will come to you. And lastly, this is one that I never hear anybody talk about, But the social and community benefits of walking are incredible. So, not only, like, I, for example, tend to walk in the same few places all the time, which means I see the same people all the time. So, we build like a little community of walkers. We talk to each other. Sometimes we have conversations and discover things about each other. I see things happening around my neighborhood more. I just feel overall more connected to the community I'm in when I walk. But also, walking is an easy thing to do with other people. Sometimes I ask my friends to walk with me just because it gives us an opportunity to bond over something other than drinks or dinner or whatever. We can get the exercise in, we can get the blood flow, the endorphins, and we can connect. And it's something that almost everyone can do. You know, if I invite someone to go strength train with me, they might feel intimidated or it's just not something they want to do. If we go to an exercise class, I mean, we don't get to interact with each other. But walking allows you to side by side get all these benefits that I mentioned and have an opportunity to bond. So the social benefits of walking, along with all the mental and physical benefits, are amazing. I also see a lot of people at all different ages walking. I can walk with my kids. I used to be able to walk with my dad. I can walk with my mom. I can walk with anyone. There's no restrictions and there's no equipment aside from a good pair of shoes that's needed. So if you haven't started already, if you're feeling stuck, if you are trying to determine, sorry, I see bugs. But if you're trying to determine the right exercise for you, start with walking. And maybe you'll get a download about what exercise you can incorporate into your routine next. But just get up, open your door, put on your shoes, and start walking.